Bryan Christopher Kohberger was born in late November 1994 in a small town in Pennsylvania. From a young age, he showed signs of intense curiosity, particularly about the workings of the human mind. Raised in a middle-class family, his early life was quiet and mostly unremarkable. But even then, those who knew him sensed something a little different: an analytical streak, a certain detachment, and an unusually deep interest in criminal psychology. He pursued that interest with determination, earning an associate degree in psychology and continuing on to receive his master's degree in criminal justice. As a student, he was often described as intelligent and focused. Some classmates noted that he could be socially awkward, even cold, but few suspected anything alarming. In his academic work, he seemed determined to understand crime, not just as a societal issue, but as a psychological puzzle to be solved. In the fall of 2022, Kohberger enrolled in a Ph.D. program in criminology at Washington State University in Pullman, Washington, just a short drive from the University of Idaho campus in Moscow. There he served as a teaching assistant and was known for his long-winded answers and intense classroom demeanor. Though some students appreciated his knowledge, others found him difficult to approach or overly authoritative. But while he was diving deeper into criminal theory and data analysis, something else was happening, something darker. On the night of November 13, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, were found brutally stabbed to death in their off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho. The crime scene was horrific. The killer had used a military-style knife, and 2 roommates in the house survived, left unaware of the massacre that took place just rooms away. The murders shocked the small college town and soon drew national attention. There had not been a murder in Moscow for years. Students left campus early, afraid for their safety. Investigators worked through hundreds of leads: security camera footage, phone data, forensic evidence. Slowly, a pattern emerged. A white Hyundai Elantra had been seen repeatedly near the crime scene that night. DNA from a knife sheath left at the house matched a sample collected from the trash outside Kohberger's parents' home in Pennsylvania. On December 30, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was arrested at his family's house and extradited to Idaho. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. In court, he appeared calm and emotionless. He pleaded not guilty. Prosecutors indicated that they would seek the death penalty. The case stunned the country, not just for its brutality, but because the accused was a criminology Ph.D. student. A man who had studied criminal behavior now stood accused of one of the most disturbing crimes in recent memory. As the investigation continued, more details surfaced. Kohberger had allegedly been researching the minds of criminals, even putting out online surveys, asking participants how they felt before and after committing crimes. Some speculated that this was part of an effort to understand or even simulate the psychology of murder. It raised haunting questions. Had he been planning this? Was it all part of a twisted experiment? His behavior after the crime also drew attention. He returned to class, continued teaching, and even graded student papers. To those around him, he acted completely normal. But the evidence was piling up: cell phone records, surveillance footage, vehicle movements, and the damning DNA. As more became public, the picture became clearer, but also more chilling. This wasn't a random act. It was premeditated. It was executed with cold precision. In the months that followed, the case remained in the headlines. Legal debates raged about media coverage, gag orders, and the role of leaked evidence. Some argued that Kohberger's rights were being violated. Others believed the system was too lenient. A new twist emerged when his defense team revealed that he had been diagnosed with autism. They argued that his condition should be considered in sentencing and that he should not face execution. But public sympathy was thin. For the families of the victims, no sentence could bring their loved ones back. They demanded answers and justice. Then in June 2025, just days before his trial was set to begin, Bryan Kohberger changed his plea. He agreed to plead guilty to all counts. In exchange, the prosecution dropped its pursuit of the death penalty. He now faces 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus additional years for felony burglary. The move brought a sudden and unexpected end to one of the most high-profile cases in recent American history. Some of the victims' families were relieved. Others felt robbed of the opportunity to hear a full confession, to understand the motive. Why did he do it? What did he hope to achieve? Did he feel remorse? None of those questions were answered in court. Kohberger offered no public explanation, only the guilty plea and the silent acceptance of a lifetime behind bars. The story of Bryan Kohberger is disturbing not only because of the crime itself, but because of the long lead-up. Here was a man who had studied crime, taught about crime, researched the minds of criminals, only to allegedly become one. He didn't snap in a moment of rage. This was planned, controlled, calculated. His life had been about understanding violence, and ultimately, he chose to carry it out. There's also something uniquely haunting about the contrast between the promise of his academic career and the reality of what he did. He was on the verge of earning a Ph.D. He had every resource to study the criminal mind, to contribute meaningfully to society. Instead, he inflicted irreversible pain. He destroyed 4 lives, shattered countless others, and forever altered a quiet college town. In the wake of the tragedy, the University of Idaho and Washington State University re-evaluated campus safety and mental health resources. Friends and professors who once knew Kohberger were left stunned, unable to reconcile the person they thought they knew with the actions he confessed to. Some pointed to warning signs, his controlling behavior, his dark discussions in class, but hindsight, as always, was clearer than the present. For the families of Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan, life will never be the same. Their children were young, full of potential, on the cusp of building futures. Now their names are etched into the national consciousness as victims of one of the most inexplicable crimes in modern college history. Memorials have been erected, scholarships established, and moments of silence observed. But the pain remains. Bryan Kohberger's life is now defined by what he destroyed. He will spend the rest of his days in a cell, surrounded not by books and lectures, but by the weight of his crimes. The world will move on, but the families, the communities, and the classmates affected will carry the scars forever. This story forces us to examine uncomfortable truths about mental illness, about violence, about what lies beneath even the most composed facades. It is a reminder that evil does not always come in the form of monsters. Sometimes it wears a quiet face, speaks in academic terms, and walks among us unnoticed, until it's too late. Bryan Kohberger began life with potential, with intelligence, with the tools to make a difference. He ended it as a killer, a cautionary tale, a name that evokes horror and grief. And in the space between who he was and who he became lies one of the darkest chapters in the story of American crime.